Hello class, I hope everyone is having a great day so far when they're starting to watch this video. We're going to start learning about parts of a cell next in our class. So what questions I have for you guys to kind of get you thinking about thinking about how to come up with parts of a cell is what makes up a cell. What parts do we already know about? We've learned that some of the different macromolecules that are really important, but is there any kind of organization to a cell? How are they organized exactly? What kind of organization do they have? And then I always like to draw analogies or comparisons. And so how are they similar to humans? So our human body is organized in very specific ways. And so how are our cells organized? Each part of our human body has a very specific function. For example, our muscles help move things. And so there's also an equal part of each cell that happens that way. So by the end of the day, end of the unit, I want us to be able to list and describe the parts of a cell and also be able to locate the parts of a cell given a picture. So those are what we're going for. This is a good video I want you guys to watch that describes each type of organelle and what they look like, shows that a little bit. And then also I have a fun parts of the cell song that I have linked in our classroom as well. So if you guys are like me, sometimes it helps to hear a song and to remember the words to a song rather than just memorizing something. So this is a good way to help us learn as well. So please watch both those videos. I have those linked as always. But what we're going to get to is the parts of a cell. So the important things to learn is that we have 13 major organelles in a cell. So what is an organelle? An organelle is a specialized part of a cell which has a certain function. So it's specialized and it's just one part that has maybe one or even just a few jobs to help make the cell work together. They're all part of this team that creates what we see as a cell, and they're like organs in our body. So organelle has the same root as organs. So we know that our heart is an organ. We know that our brain or even our skin are both organs, and they all have specific, very clear, different functions, just like our organelles do. So the first organelle we're going to learn about is a cell wall. A cell wall is the outermost membrane in a plant cell. So we can see just for plant cells, they have on the very outside a cell wall, and it provides support. So they're located on the outside. It helps with the support. It helps give plants a lot of shape, which is really important when we think about a flower, for example, how it grows up towards the sun. It needs that support to grow. I like to think of this like a brick wall. If we're laying our different bricks in one at a time, they need that very rigid, very strong outside part to help us build up. The next part we're going to talk about is a cell membrane. So all cells have a cell membrane. Only plant cells have a cell wall. But a cell membrane is a barrier of the cell which controls what goes in or out. When we talked about lipids, we talked about how lipids were the barrier of the cell. So what a cell membrane is made of lipids. I like to think of our cell membrane as a door of the cell, just like the door of our house or maybe our bedroom. It controls what goes in and out, and if it doesn't want certain things to go in, it stays shut. But it's our barrier, our cell membrane. Our cytoplasm is what's next. So our cytoplasm, we can see in this picture, is on the inside. Our cell membrane's on the outside. Our cytoplasm is the fluid inside the cell. So our cell is made of a bunch of different nutrients, materials for the cytoplasm, but it's mainly water. So Cytoplasm is like the water-like fluid that everything sits inside of. Then we have our nucleus, which is really important. Our nucleus, which is this whole part, this whole picture, is the organelle which contains DNA, chromosomes, and genetic material. So let me go back. When we're looking at our big cell picture, our nucleus is on this inside. So everything is usually surrounding the nucleus. Our nucleus is the information center of the cell, or I like to think of it kind of like the brain, kind of our brain of the cell. It tells everything else in the cell how to be made and what is important. And then we have the nucleolus, which is part of the nucleus. It is the dark center of the nucleus which stores materials for ribosomes. So certain nutrients, certain materials are on the very inside of our nucleus. And then on the outer side, we have where all of our DNA and chromatin or chromosomes are. And then within that, it's what's called a nuclear envelope. So this envelope just makes sure everything stays inside that needs to, but we have little circles called nuclear pores, which allow the nutrients from our nucleolus and anything from our chromosomes that need to come out. They have holes to leave our nucleus, but that's a up-close picture of what it looks like. Then we have what's called a chloroplast. So a chloroplast is an organelle where photosynthesis occurs. And this is only in plant cells. So we learned a lot about photosynthesis earlier this year. Well, last partial I should say now. And we know that they have thylakoids and stroma and chlorophyll, and that we've learned all about the process of photosynthesis, how it can convert light energy into sugars using carbon dioxide and water, and then it also produces oxygen. The other important part or another important organelle is a lysosome. So a lysosome is the organelle which eats food, waste, or foreign particles. So I like to think of these as our trash collectors. So we can see in this animal cell, so we don't have any chloroplasts because it's an animal cell. Only plant cells have that. But we have this little clear organelle down here called a lysosome. So this lysosome is going to go around the cell and see if there's any trash that it needs to eat, or if there's a virus in the cell, our lysosomes will go and eat the virus. And what's inside the lysosome is a lot of very acidic, a lot of very strong chemicals to break things down. Then we have the mitochondria, which we learned a lot about as well. It's the organelle where respiration takes place. So we can see in our animal cell there are mitochondria, one here, 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 and here. This is what we like to think of as the powerhouse of the cell. So we learned about respiration gives us a lot of ATP, a lot of energy. So when we need to do anything that requires energy, our mitochondria are working really hard, and they're taking oxygen and sugar and making energy, CO2, and water. So it's just the reverse of photosynthesis. Another important organelle is a ribosome. A ribosome we can see down here. We'll also learn that our ribosomes are on our endoplasmic reticulum, but ribosomes are what make proteins. So we will learn more about ribosomes later, but they make proteins by taking information from our nucleus, translating it, and then producing a protein that will go into the rest of the cell to do work. Alright, so now we have our smooth endoplasmic reticulum on the right, or smooth ER. Endoplasmic reticulum is a long word, so we usually just say smooth ER. This is the organelle which make lipids. So we talked about lipids being important for our cell membrane, It's also important for all the membranes within the cell to create these individual little barriers. So our lysosomes have some lipids in them. Everything has some lipids. The important difference is this does not contain ribosomes, so we don't see any little red dots on our smooth ER. Whereas in our rough ER, our rough endoplasmic reticulum, this is the organelle which transports proteins around the cell. And we can see these little ribosomes on it. So the way it works is our ribosomes will make the protein right here, and then they will create a little barrier on it and transport that protein wherever it needs to go. So sometimes it's around the cell, sometimes it's even outside the cell. The Golgi apparatus, our endoplasmic reticulum just goes inside the cell. Our Golgi apparatus is our organelle which packages proteins before they leave the cell. So if a protein is going to go outside the cell for some reason, it needs a good barrier. So they will get sent to our Golgi apparatus. They'll package it up like the mailman or the packaging center and ship it off. And our last, number 13, is what's called a vacuole. Our vacuole is what stores water and other materials. So we have plant cells, and animal cells have a little bit different vacuoles. So our plant cell has one large vacuole, and that's because they need a lot more water in one place. And then our animal cells have several small vacuoles. So they might store some water and materials on this side of the cell for maybe our Golgi apparatus to use, and then over closer to the nucleus for our nucleus to use. So animal cells and plant cells are just a little bit different with vacuoles, but they both still have vacuoles. So I like to think of our vacuoles as our storage centers, or maybe even a closet. We put all of our stuff in the closet, it all gets put in there. So let's go through this diagram just to help label some things. I encourage you guys to pause the video and try for yourself. I will go through it though here real fast. So number 1 is our cell wall. So first we need to know if one's a plant cell or an animal cell. The easy ways to determine plant cells is if they have chloroplasts like this and one large vacuole. So this is a plant cell. So plant cells have a cell wall. Animal cells do not. So this is a cell wall. Number 2, we can see that there's some little dots on this thing, and then it goes to smooth. So this is our smooth endoplasmic reticulum, or smooth ER. This number 3 looks like they're pointing to the dark part of what looks like the nucleus. So the dark part of the nucleus is the nucleolus. We said this big thing was our vacuole, our central vacuole, which it's labeled in plants at sometimes. And then this little thing, since it says contains digestive enzymes, digestive is another word for like when we eat, and we've learned about enzymes before. So these are our lysosomes. So our trash collectors have digestive enzymes to help break those down. Looking at number 6, this looks very similar to this picture. So if this was our smooth ER, this is going to be our rough ER because there's little bumps with the ribosomes on it. Number 7 is just pointing to the liquid inside. So the liquid inside would be our cytoplasm. Number 8 is pointing to a mitochondria. And number 9, this contains nutrients. So this would be a vacuole as well. And number 10 is pointing to the whole thing. So this is our nucleus. Some of the things that aren't labeled with a number is our Golgi apparatus right here and right here, and our chloroplasts. And then the last one that they forgot was a cell membrane on the very far outside. So those are our 13 parts, 13 important organelles to learn. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. Please be practicing and getting through some of the assignments I have to help us learn these. Thank you.